Okay, we are recording. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's welcome to this week's REI Lead Gen Mastermind Coaching Call. I think I'm going to call these office hours calls going forward because that's kind of what they are. But as always, very, very happy to be here. Yukiko is on the line, and we're kind of chatting, and I'm sure other people will come in as we go. But I wanted to kind of, Yukiko, get right to your question. So you had a question about conversion tracking.
Right. Yes.
So let me know again. What was your question?
So I think my question is about the definition of the conversion. I'm pretty sure definition of the conversion is different from website to website. Like, for example, if it's e-commerce, if you put in a shopping cart and then check out, that's when the conversion happen, I think. So for our cases, because we have a web forms, I think when after the click-through, people fill out those forms and submit and then click, and that's where the conversions happen, right?
Yes. So you're exactly right? A conversion is going to depend on how you set it up and what the site is. You're totally right. Like an e-commerce site, conversion might be a purchase, right? But you can also set up so that a conversion might be, whatever your goal is. Like I want people to spend at least 10 minutes on the website, right? So like that could be a conversion, right? You could set that up. So for us specifically, a conversion is just going to mean whenever somebody fills out the form or when someone calls you, okay? And there are different ways to track that, and how we set it up with you is going to depend a little bit on your site. So for investor carrot sites, we're a little bit limited in what we can do. It's not a big deal, but there's like a technical limitation on what we can do. So typically the way it's going to be set up is we take a piece of code that comes from the conversion section of your AdWords account, and we're going to put that code on the step 2 page on your investor carrot site, right? Mm-hmm. So anytime they fill out one of your forms, they're going to get kicked to that step 2 page, which asks for more information. Mm-hmm. And whenever that code is triggered, whenever that page is loaded by someone specifically that has clicked an ad first. So like if someone comes through organic, they will not trigger that conversion code. They'll only do it if they click your ad and then do that. So if they do that, that triggers a conversion. We also track conversions if the ad displays in Google. So like if someone types in, semi-house fast DC, and they display your ad, and your ad is, I think it's only the first position, it'll display your phone number just in the ad, right? And so if they see that and they don't click, they just call you. They see the number and they just call directly.
Right.
We'll also track that as a conversion.
How? Oh, because of the telephone number it's showing.
Exactly. Google's going to put in a tracking number automatically. It's still going to go to your number, but it'll go through that tracking number, and Google will count that as basically as a click. And if the call lasts, I believe our setting is if the call lasts more than 30 seconds, it's counted as a conversion. If it lasts less than 30 seconds, we kind of assume that like someone had like big fingers and they just clicked it by accident and they were like, oh no, and like X'd out of it, right? So that certainly happens. So we don't count those, but calls over 30 seconds. Now the one, and I believe I talk about this a little bit in some of the materials, the one conversion that's not included in those is if I see the ad, I click the ad, so I land on your investor carrot site, and then I just call the number. So I don't fill out the form, I just call your phone number. Right?
Oh, I see.
And so theoretically, those won't get passed into AdWords. You won't know that those came from AdWords. They'll just look like regular phone calls. There is a way to do that and to track that. And that's via a service like CallRail. CallRail is typically the one that we use, paid phone tracking service. And the way that it works is you can put a piece of code on the actual site, so the investor carrot people will help you do this. And essentially what it would do is if I click the ad, so if I came from AdWords specifically, this code will trigger. It'll find everywhere on your site that you list your phone number and swap it out with a tracking number.
Oh, I see.
So it's like only goes off if the person came from AdWords and then they called you. It's kind of elaborate. It's not an easy setup, unfortunately.
Right.
And CallRail is not cheap. So most of the time I just say, you can kind of just eyeball that. If you're getting more calls, maybe it's from AdWords, you sort of get a sense of what to expect. And so, you know, it's going to be different for everyone. If you're spending a lot of money or you're getting a lot of traffic, tracking those makes sense. But if you're still early, a lot of times it's like too much of a pain in the butt to even worry about, because most people are going to email you.
Right.
Very few people, as a percentage of total leads, are typically going to call. It's usually around like 5 to 10%, maybe. So, so does that make sense? I sort of trailed off there a little bit.
Yeah.
But, okay. Yeah. So you said you saw some conversions, which is cool. And I know your account hasn't been running for a whole ton of time.
I think it's probably 30 days by now. I
Okay,
saw some
cool.
conversion, like maybe 1 or 2.
Okay. Do you want to take a look at it?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I'll tell you what. Let me open up my thing here. I'll open up your account, and then I will share my screen. It's also a little tough because you're kind of getting started in the slowest month. So this is typically going to be the very slowest period that we run is sort of like November through December. So almost always the volume is going to pick up pretty significantly in January and February. So it's a good time to look at this because we want to spot any problems now so that we're sort of more efficient in running for January and February. Here, let me share my screen.
But in general, I see my ad when I search for the WeBuy houses in DC.
Yeah.
I usually spot, you know, the ad.
Cool. All right. All right. Interesting. So let's see. So let's look at this. You had 1,857 impressions and 26 clicks. Now, how much time is this? Let's see. So if I look at daily, you started generating data November 12th. So yeah, it's just over 30 days. So this is interesting. Okay, so $33 a day, so you're about $1,000 a month, right? Very interesting. Let's think about this. So first thing I notice is that your actual spend is only $264.
Wow,
right?
That's it?
Yeah, so you only spent like 20% of your budget, just about a little more than that, or I should 25% of your budget. So you really underspent. And that could mean that maybe you're not being aggressive enough. It could mean that the volume is low. And in fact, 1,857 searches over the course of a month is actually very low.
Very low?
It's low, yeah. So I would typically look for like 7,000 to 10,000 searches over the course of a month. That's about average. Yeah, it's going to vary. Well, actually, let me think. For this campaign,
depending on the city like DC, is this too low? Like 1,857?
Well, this is quite low for DC. So I would be shocked if this number stayed this low. I would expect this to come back up. I think you're probably seeing the seasonal effect, which is bringing in less searches. And admittedly, actually, now that I think about this build of this campaign specifically, it would probably be closer to 3,000 to 4,000 rather than 7 to 10. I was talking about a different account build, but it's still low. Yeah, so the searches are low. Your spend is low. So that's interesting to me. So let's kind of dig into this a little bit. Now, your clicks were pretty evenly split, right? So 12 and 14, right?
So I want to ask you, like, what's the difference between prospecting and focus campaign?
Yeah. So, okay. So focus campaign is really, really tightly focused on a very small number of targeted searches. So you'll see, for example, this one's only 313 impressions. So people only saw these ads 313 times. But the advantage to that is it's so tightly controlled. We know that we're only targeting the very highest motivation level keywords, right? There's no like weird variations. It's only going to pull in exactly what we know we're targeting, right? And because of that, we're going to bid more aggressively. So you
Oh,
kind of think like the focus campaign is a really, really small team, but everyone on the team is amazing, right? And so you want to spend more money on those people because you know they're going to perform better, right?
okay.
So you'll notice your cost per click here is almost $17 a click, whereas in prospecting it's like $4. So it's really, really different, right? So these guys are like your highest performing, like A team, best possible keywords. Okay? Now, if we look at this, right, you convert about 8% or 8.3%. That's about average, a little better than average, actually. I would pick average as about 7% conversion rate industry wide. So 8.3 is good. I'm happy with that conversion rate. It's not as good as it could be, but it's not low enough to be a problem, right? Your cost per conversion is quite high. So $202 a lead is very expensive. You're in an expensive market in general. I expect your cost per lead to be higher than the national average, but that's a little too high. And that's just connected to your cost per click is high. And like, you didn't generate enough to get, like if you got 2 leads here, like, which you wouldn't need a whole lot more clicks to do. That would probably put you, around the $100, $120 lead mark. And that would be more what I would expect from the market.
Right.
So that's like, not great, but not terrible. Again, like the seasonal stuff, like it's hard to tell if this is going to be typical or if it's just going to be totally different in January and February, right?
Right.
Now that's your focus campaign. Prospecting campaign is kind of the opposite. It's going to have a lot of keywords in it, or not a lot, but you're going to have significantly more searches in it. And each of those searches is going to be a little broader. So it pulls in a much bigger group of people, but those people are less well targeted and they convert less often. Because of that, we bid less. So like I'm willing to pay less for each one of these clicks because I don't know how they're going to perform as much, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, typically what that means is that your conversion rate will be lower, but it should still generate some leads, and the cost per lead should be roughly equal. So like, let's say you generated 1 lead here. Right? So you had roughly the same amount of clicks. Let's say you generated 1 lead. The cost per lead would probably be close to $80, maybe $100. So we'll put it kind of on par with the focus campaign, but with a very different approach. Right?
I see.
And those campaigns are going to play into each other and sort of talk back and forth to each other as you sort of grow the account. Now, kind of looking at your numbers here, so your cost per click is quite low here for prospecting, and your position is lower than average. So I think what's happening is you're sort of being bid out a little bit of these on the prospecting keywords.
I see.
So you could probably stand to up this a little bit, be a little more aggressive here. With the focus campaign, these numbers all look good. I just want these to convert more often. So I think this is going to be more an issue of finding stuff to remove. So finding out where you spend your money and then saying like, hey, what didn't perform? What can I get rid of? Like we look at your search terms here. And I want to look at cost. So we buy houses DC. That seems pretty good. We buy houses. Sean Keith, metro area house buyers. So is that a competitor?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so like this is just coming up because we're targeting the keyword house buyers, right? So it's interesting. That might be a good keyword because maybe that's somebody who like got a postcard from a competitor and they're like researching them, and then you can jump in front of that person and say, oh, hey, no. Sean Keith is an idiot. Go with Yukiko. You know what I mean?
Oh, so this is what the people typing in when it comes to this campaign. Is that right?
Yeah, this is what people actually are typing in.
Oh, I see.
So the keywords are like what we tell Google we want. Search terms are what people actually typed in. And the two are different, right?
I see.
So DC cash home buyers, DC top home investors. It's interesting. I don't know. There's not enough data here really to be able to tell about any of these keywords. I think this month was low volume enough that it's kind of hard to tell. Certainly is the case that, so out of all these, right? So we have all these keywords in here, right? Only, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them generated any interest at all, right? So these are the only ones that spent any money. And out of these, house buyers was by far the most expensive. Is that true? Let me sort these again. Yeah, house buyers. So house buyers is the one that like, it generated by far the most traffic. So it had 116 impressions. It generated the highest number of clicks at 3, which is not great. You had a very high position. You're in 1.7. So right now, like you're like the top position for this keyword. But it didn't generate any leads. Now, admittedly, it only sent 3 clicks. So this could be your best keyword. It's just too early to tell, unfortunately. Let's pop over into the prospecting campaign. Let's look at that because that's going to generate significantly more traffic. So let's look at costs here. Yeah, so short sale homes in DC. Snoopy house? Don't know what that is. I'm going to add that to our negatives right now. Let's add that right now. We're adding the word Snoopy. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to shared library, campaign negatives. We're going to master negatives. We are adding the word Snoopy. Sorry, Snoopy. We don't want Snoopy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Good. So we got rid of that one. So yeah, so you're going to do this during your first grind, this process of going through your search terms and finding keywords you want to remove, because that's going to be important. Yeah, house sold. Some of these are going to be a little too broad. So like, for example, house sold in Bucknell, that might be like not enough of a keyword to really target. It kind of seems like more somebody doing research on buying a house more than anything. Buy auction house, that seems like another investor. Yeah, so a lot of these you'll probably remove, and that's by design. You're going to want to remove a bunch of these up front, and what it's going to do is start to generate more ideas of stuff you do want to target. So for example, sell a house in DC. Maybe that's the thing that you do want to target, right? So what we would do is add this to our focus campaign.
Oh, I see.
And the process for doing that is in the course materials. If you have questions about that, let me know.
Oh, okay.
You know, the keyword wholesale, so like wholesale property buyers, is tricky. In some markets, that's a good keyword. And in other markets, it's not. And really what it depends on is, do regular people use the word wholesale, or do only investors use that word?
Only investor in DC.
Yeah. I
don't think any regular people knows.
Yeah. So I think like adding that maybe as a negative, and we can add that as well. I'm going to add that to the master negatives, adding wholesale. I'm just doing these for you. You know, I think that's probably a good idea. Now, some markets, people do use the word wholesale, but I actually am, over time, I'm becoming more and more negative about that keyword. I don't think it performs particularly well in most markets. It generates conversions, but most of those conversions are wholesalers trying to, you know, people who want to sell you properties or something.
Right.
They're not like actual deals or off-market deals or anything.
Right.
So overall, I mean, so this didn't do great, but it's still early. There's not a lot of traffic here, and there's very little spend, right? So it's not like you blew a bunch of money. You know, $200 is not nothing, but I think it's like, it still needs time to go. And I think my suggestion would be, go through the grind process on this account, like follow through the videos, do the negative keywords, add some new keywords, stuff like that. But you're probably not going to make a bunch of changes.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, what you're going to do is wait till January and February and let this pick up, because traffic will pick up pretty significantly in January and February.
Okay.
And that will bring in a lot more data. It will give you a lot more to work with.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. But yeah, everything seems to be working okay. I mean, I wish you had better numbers, but there's nothing glaringly wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of a market thing than anything else. So what we'll want to watch for is January. Do things pick up? If not, then I would say jump on the call with me. Let's do a more serious kind of go through and see what's happening.
Okay.
But in general, I think we're probably fine for now.
Good.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Beautiful. All right. Did you have another question, or was that kind of what you were thinking about?
I did all the SEO stuff like you recommend putting the service area. I just want to make sure the structure, the link is correct, like as you suggested. So if you don't mind.
Sure. Okay, cool. So we're looking at services and service area?
I think service area, I haven't put like a show sale, but this service area, I hired the copywriter to, write stuff. So I don't know. You have to put more pictures, or I don't know, like how, elaborate it have to be.
Gotcha. Yeah. So these are good. You did these right. Now, I would say a couple different things. One, you need to have the lead form on all these pages, right? So there's a spot for it right here, up here on the right.
You need a lead form?
Yeah, because you want people to land on these pages and then contact you. So I would definitely include your phone number and the lead gen form.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And you can just do that in Carrot. It's like a little option when you're editing the page to include the form. I would definitely make sure your phone number is big and prominent on each of these pages as well.
Oh, okay.
The other thing I would do is you want to talk. So these paragraphs are good, right? But these pages, right? You want to talk about how you buy houses in these areas, right?
Oh.
So it's like, we buy houses in Deanwood, or whatever your target keywords are, right? And you can have this information good. Like you can have this as an about Deanwood section of the page. That's great. Okay.
But have to include some we buy houses as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So you want to think about, you want these pages to show up when someone's out there searching for, like, sell my house in Deanwood. Right now, these are set up just to show up if someone types in Deanwood, which is not bad, but you could tweak this. So what I would do is I would keep this text, but I would add to it. And at the top, I would add a couple paragraphs for like, hey, we buy houses in Deanwood. I'm a house buyer. I know a lot about Deanwood and blah, blah, blah. And here's some more information about Deanwood, but just make it all about buying houses.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, this is good. So definitely images are good too. So if you can add images of maybe like 1 or 2 pictures per page.
Okay. Wow.
And make sure that the alt text, so like the text around the image says like Deanwood, house buyer, or something like that.
Okay.
That would be good. But overall, these are good. They're certainly structured well. And they are kind of like what you want. But you want to think about, this page has really got to rank for like house buyer in Deanwood or sell my house in Deanwood or something like that. So you want to think about it through that lens and make sure that the text represents that.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And then I'm still working on the service page. So if you go to service page, I don't know if you can go from here. There's no link.
Okay. This is not it right here?
No, there's no link from here.
Okay.
But if you go top, I'm going to put like a more text, and then foreclosure or shows. I think foreclosure, divorce, bankruptcy. I'm gonna create maybe a paragraph below this text and then link to those pages. But those plus foreclosure or divorce pages, you can have those the the link, like a top menu on each page. I think the service area, you can't have any top link or anything, but the service page for like foreclosure or show sale, you can show
Yes.
the top.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I understand correctly.
Yeah, it's a little weird, I admit, but the service areas page is the one we don't want any of the navigation. Pretty much all the other pages, except your secret silo pages, can have the navigation normally.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So for the services, I wouldn't worry about it. Like just like buying houses in foreclosure, just treat it like a regular page, and you can have it up here and everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the blog, you recommend like a once in a week or something, like an update or something? I know Investor Carrot has some package, but you recommend to put up some unique blog specifically for like area like DC or something, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So I would definitely focus on creating some unique content. And you could still do the carrot package. I think that it certainly helps, but you want to have some unique stuff. How much you do it really depends on how much you're depending on organic as a channel and how competitive the market. So if your market's really competitive organically, you're going to want to blog original content more often.
I see.
So I would say the maximum is probably 3 times a week.
3 times a week.
So most people are going to do once a week or like once every other week. For DC, I would probably do once a week.
Okay.
That's going to get you some gradual momentum. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to like blow up, but it is going to gradually increase the size of the site, and that's what we want.
Okay.
So I think that's great. Just focus on, do that. The syndication network will be all set up for you at some point, and then kind of doing the process we talk about with the PowerPoints and with the videos, either outsourcing that or doing that yourself. Once you get that in place, you're creating a lot of content for every blog post you make. So you don't need to do it a lot to have a lot of content out there. So if once a week is doable for you, I would do that. If you're like, look, I can only handle once every other week, that's fine too. Just do what you're comfortable with, what you can do consistently.
Okay.
Yeah, but this all looks good. You could go. I'm definitely happy with what you've done here. I like the setup.
And then put some links.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the proud member of So you want to have links out and links in and all that stuff. But you're doing it. You're following the process. I mean, I think you're exactly where you need to be.
Thank you.
Just keep plugging away at it, and if you need help, let me know.
Oh, okay.
But I think you're doing well.
Good. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, that was it. You were my only participant today. Did you have any other questions or?
I think that's it. So timing wise, like the syndications is happening like in a couple weeks or something.
Yeah. Let me confirm. Yeah, so we have your thing. Let's see, you filled it on the 22nd. It actually should be pretty close to done by now, if it's not long. So we'll check on that and let you know. I'll check with Andrew right now and let you know when it'll be done. But it should be pretty close to done. We do sort of space it out so we don't create too many new accounts all at once. So we may be kind of just finishing that up, but it should be pretty much done.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And I'll have Andrew email you just the information about that if you don't have it already.
Okay. All right.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Yukiko. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. And bye. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Stay warm.
All right.